Well, I think this was a miscalculation on behalf of the leadership in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, really because I think they felt very bolstered by their relationship with the Trump administration, and whether this was an assassination attempt gone wrong or interrogation gone wrong, they didn't anticipate that the international community would care so much about a journalist. And I think that this is where the Trump administration hasn't really delineated red lines in their relationship.
There is an assumption, and we're going to have to be very careful here as well, because at the moment, I mean, Saudi is still saying that there are denials out there, although we're seeing reports that they are going to say it's a botched interrogation. So we're very careful of what we say as fact rather than what we think's happened as well. But in terms of what this could mean internally in Saudi politics as well, we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months an ascendancy of Mohammed bin Salman as the heir apparent, so to speak, as the real power behind the throne at the moment. Does anything that you've seen change that storyline?
Well, of course, it's hard to say. I think the opacity of the kingdom's politics is very hard to determine sitting on the outside, and they never really want us to know what's happening behind the scenes. But I think he's still going to be okay. He might be pushed back a little from the front lines, and that's already been happening already with the Aramco decision and with King Salman's a little bit of a walk back on the peace process and the issue of Jerusalem. They have already removed him slightly from being front and center, so I think that spreading the decision-making responsibility is going to be important.
What happens to this conference? I mean, we're looking to see what the trading chips are that both sides employ at this point to head off a potential crisis. Is the FII event effectively dead here, do you think?
I think it would be a really bad message if they canceled it. It would really show that they're in a very weakened position. So they're going to try and continue even with less participants. Steve Mnuchin said he's already going. I believe members of the Russian political establishment are also going, and nobody wants to, at least from the American side, give or hand Saudi Arabia over to Russia in this moment.
One of the interesting aspects of the diplomacy we've seen from the United States towards Saudi Arabia in the last 18 months or so is the way that Donald Trump has tried to develop a personal relationship, it seems, with MBS. How in any way does that change the diplomatic narrative going forward? Does it impact Trump going into midterms? I mean, does he need to distance himself? How does it play?
Well, I think President Trump is under significant pressure from Congress in particular that has been over the past few years, but specifically past few months over Yemen, been building some anti-Saudi momentum. So he's being backed into a corner by Congress, but not from his domestic base, who really doesn't have a lot of bandwidth for Saudi Arabia ultimately. But it's important that President Trump looks like he's playing the tough guy in this relationship and also being very realistic, because Saudi Arabia and the United States still actually need each other. There are symbiotic benefits on both sides that they aren't going to go away just through these tensions.
And how do you think, with the U.S. and Saudi, they clearly ultimately allies and they'll try and work through this. Turkey and Saudi have had quite a bit of tension, so how do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I think all sides are really trying to game this, and that's the real tragedy here. Turkey is trying to obtain as much leverage in this crisis, and we don't really know what they want yet. Are they going to pressure the Saudis? They're really being coy. Are they going to look for some sort of opening to improve their relationships with Riyadh, or are they going to look to resolve the Qatar crisis, for example? I think that all parties are sort of standing on the sidelines.
Do you think they ask for something from the U.S. in return, and it's less about a rapprochement with Saudi and more about getting more from the U.S.?
Well, there have been hints of that already with Pastor Brunson being released, and perhaps they're looking for a resolution on their sanctions issues. So there are many openings and opportunities here.
There's been no discussion whatsoever of how much oil the Turks are going to be allowed to buy from a U.S. perspective. Any thoughts on the Iranian sanctions and what that means for?
Well, the U.S. administration is being very mum on the issue of waivers, and they are really going to wait, I think, until November 3rd to announce them, because they don't want to see any fluctuation in oil prices, and they want to keep everyone back-footed and on their toes going forward. The Turks have indicated that they're going to continue to buy. They need to buy. as have many other countries. So really this is a lot of hedging going into November 4th, and everyone is trying to build leverage to their advantage.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.